So some of us don't disobey God out of defiance. We disobey because somewhere deep down we don't actually believe He's going to come through. So we take matters into our own hands and we end up further from God and closer to something else that we never intended. So last video we already established that God's will is His commands. God's will is what He says to do. So today we're gonna go a step further because some of us don't struggle to obey because we don't know what's right. We struggle because we're not sure God can be trusted with what we need. So today, what does heaven, the reality of heaven, actually change about how you live right now? So here is what I think some of us could be carrying, but sometimes we haven't put it into words or give it much thought. But sometimes you're legit tired of waiting. You have a need and it's real, it's urgent, it's felt in your body type of desire, and God's timeline doesn't seem to match. So little by little, some of us have started to meet that need, similar to when Sarah and Hagar had that whole situation in Genesis. So you started to meet a need outside God's will, and it hasn't destroyed you, but it hasn't freed you either. You just feel further from Him and closer to something else, and that is where disobedience sometimes lives. Not in defiance, but in doubt. And sometimes you could feel like I have to take care of this because I don't feel like God will. But what if God can actually take care of you? And what if the only thing you need to do is you need to let God take care of you? Because there will be things in your life that you don't always understand, seasons that don't make sense, assignments you didn't choose, and things you honestly just don't want to do. And that is not a malfunction, that is just the shape of life on earth. Scripture says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So when heaven is real to you, obedience can get easier because you're no longer wrestling with God over material possessions that will never fulfill you like God was meant to. So this place on earth, this is not your final resting place. Yes, there will be things you want to do that God does not want for you. And that's just the hard truth. But take heart, because one day soon, that won't be a reality anymore. There'll be a day where it no longer feels like this big tug and war between you and God, your desires, God's will. Like, it won't be such a wrestling, and it won't be as hard. So don't just conceptualize in your head, oh, I'm going to heaven. Actually think about it, dream about it, long for it, and let that frame of mind make you excited to get off of this planet. And not in a morbid way, but more in like, I have a hope that one day I'll be fully with God in a way that is beyond my comprehension, and peace will abound forever. For example, personally in my life, I like to think about riding an elephant around in heaven and all the little animals I'll just have access to. My husband's in love with this idea of like his lion. So I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna visit his house. I gonna visit his house and he gonna have lions. So I let myself imagine all the good things that could be, because anything on this earth that I do not have pales in comparison to what I will have with God in heaven and what God has prepared for His people. So the believers around the world right now who face persecution, they live in conditions that we would prefer not to live in. Their lives may look nothing like comfort in the human perspective of that, but they are not lacking one good thing when they go to be with Jesus. The ones who gave everything and died with nothing in their hands did not miss out on anything. They got it right, because this verse says, for I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy. They're not worthy to be compared to the glory that is to be revealed to us. So this is not a this is not a consolation prize. Like, heaven isn't like a oops, you have suffered, but at least, hey, you get to go to heaven. Like, heaven is the goal. Heaven is the big mega stuffed animal. That's what heaven is. So here is a practical way to hold that truth here on earth. Living here is like a job. You go to work, you have hard hours, there are moments of rest, there are days when nothing goes right, but when the shift ends, you go home. And home for the believer is being with Jesus. So when heaven becomes a real place to you, obedience can become easier because you're no longer in such distress about what you don't have on earth, but you're excited that earth will pass away and you will get the best prize of your faith, which is a very intimate day to day relationship with Jesus Christ that's better than the one you presently have. Revelation 21:4 says, He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no longer any death. There will be no longer be any mourning or crying or pain because the first things have passed away. So what do we do with that? Like that reality that that's something that's going to come one day, we accept it. We stop pretending like life on earth is supposed to feel like heaven. I wish it would, honestly. I wish it would, but we have to stop being shocked like when suffering happens, because it's like that's a guarantee. And we have to not live in a lukewarm cycle as Christians, doing whatever we want, and then when things get hard, drifting from God. We feel guilty enough to feel bad, but not convicted enough to stop. And it's like round and round. And what we have to accept with God is God. He is not going to bend the commands to adjust for our, emotional tantrums at times. And still somehow in that, God cares for us abundantly. Like he cares for you, he cares for me. He's willing to come alongside us and actually help us. Some people promise help and don't deliver, okay? Um, but God is willing to help us in a big, miraculous way, and also in the day to day way that's like very practical on things you could do to improve your quality of life. And you can think about like a drug addict or someone recovering from some type of addiction. They have a sponsor, and when they feel an urge, they call their sponsor and talk through what's going on. But God does something better. He stays with you. He don't leave. You don't have to. It's like phoning him is like God. Like you just speaking, communicating out loud in your mouth, like through your verbal communication skills. He's available to talk to you at any hour. He can literally alter your behavior from the inside out. And he can also bring fellow living human beings alongside you to support you and guide you. He has set up structures and systems within your life, my life, to take you from one mental space to another. And if you're not sure where to start, look, ask him. He's available 24/7. Though life on earth is like hard and it's sacrificial and suffering, like I said, like, is a guarantee, you could take heart, because if you've repented and believed in Jesus, you are not destined to stay in the mess. So do not hold your surrender to God hostage. Do not tell God, He has to give you everything right now, or you're going to lose faith in it. That is not the faith we have fixed our eyes on. Jesus is God. Live like it. I'm building a course on things like this that can help us better understand God's will, and I wanted to serve people well. So before you go, just comment below, what questions do you still have? Is there anything you feel like I didn't address that you would prefer to be addressed the next go around? So your input is very valuable and it helps me. So please drop a comment below, and thank you for watching this video. Follow your main director. I was known before the world began. Written in the Father's plan, no weapon form can move me from His hand. I don't fight for what He already won. Sealed and chosen, I'm His son. Settled in the love that cannot be undone. The enemy been lying since the garden, trying to convince me that my God is gonna harden. It's hard against the one that a pardon. I see through His grace, don't beg, and grace don't bargain. I was purchased, I was sealed, I was marked.
I'm not trying to hurt you, buddy.